Sir New Meat Peeps, what's up? It's me, John D. Villarreal, the MMA expert and the 4-time national champion. And we've got Paul at Villarreal over there, PFV. And we just finished up with UFC 129, the main event. George St-Pierre retains his welterweight championship, beating Jake Shields in a decision in a interesting fight. Now, I've said a lot before this fight, and I'm just going to say this, because I want to be judicious about what I say now, okay? Because there's a lot that I want to say. But let's just say, I told you so. It's simple as that. I stand by everything I said, okay? Now, Jake fought a tough fight. He fought a gritty fight. He was trying to often make the fight. He didn't execute my strategy. And look, I mean, he's the one in there. And I think that GSP's major strength, besides his athletic ability and his well-roundedness, is he's able to fight the fight where and how he wants to fight the fight. That is one of the best things about him, and he did that again tonight. And there were times where I think what happened is either Jake wasn't able to sort of impose his will, or I think what happened was Jake was actually having some success striking and maybe got a little comfortable with that and thought, oh, okay, I can maybe get the better of it and do it this way. You know, it wasn't easy to take him to the ground, and I'm doing okay striking early into the first round and middle of the first round, and then he kind of, got lulled into that. And we started seeing a replay in some ways of the Koscheck fight. Now, anybody that wants to, let's say, question what I said about, GSP's mentality, this and that, whatever, mental toughness, I don't know which round it is, 3 or 4. I think it's 3. Just look in between rounds, GSP's corner. Enough said. That's all I have to say. I mean, I stand by.
Let me just say it was after round 3, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, after round 3. I mean, and that's it. Just look at what GSP's saying, how he's reacting, how his corner's reacting to them. That's it. That's all I have to say. I stand by everything that I said. And the thing of it is I don't think that GSP wants any part of Anderson Silva at all. I think Anderson Silva would, anything can happen, but I think there's a 98% chance that Anderson would beat him. I think there's a darn good chance that Nick Diaz could beat a GSP. I don't know what happened with Jake, why he didn't press the fight. Again, not only did he not do my game plan, which was, I've demoed it, okay? You push it, GSP against the cage, you make him work. If he shucks you off, which he's going to shuck you off, and take down the defense, you shoot again. Not shoot again, but you close distance again, tie him up again, and again, and again, and again. You chase him around the ring. Get him tired, whatever. That's better than sitting there and trying to trade. Now, that being said, Jake did great with the stand-up for Jake. Now, he wasn't going to beat GSP at the stand-up, but he was pretty competitive, okay? And that shocked a lot of people. That's what I saw when I went and saw his training session. He was doing some amazing stuff, hitting the pads hard. It was very impressive, and at one time I heard it just smacking on the pads. I looked over, like, whoa, his stand-up was very, very impressive. I didn't want to say that before the fight. I didn't want to tip off GSP or his people or anything like that or whatnot. But he showed that tonight. But the thing of it is that I think this is why, GSP fights, in my personal opinion, first of all it's all personal opinion, not alleging facts, not casting aspersions, all for entertainment parody purposes, only check disclaimers. In my personal opinion, GSP is fighting more to not lose than to win. And, the GSP fights aren't as exciting as they could be. I think GSP is a great champion. I think he's a great ambassador. I think he's great at business. I think he's great for the sport. But I think that we need to see some more. Now, that being said, GSP is winning. I don't want to hear about best pound for pound with GSP anymore. I really don't at all. I mean, that just stop, okay? GSP is a fantastic welterweight champion. You want to say he's one of, if not the best welterweight champion? I'll listen to that all day long. Absolutely. That's fine. You can put him in that mix with Matt Hughes, whatever like that, whatever you want to do. There's so much I want to say, but I'm just trying to be restrained right now, okay? I don't want to hear about GSP's punching power, because he hit Jake with, 20 plus just bombs. Right hand lead bombs. Jake was right there. Now, that kick that he did when Jake was coming in, that was good. GSP can strike. I'm not saying he can't strike. So, the point is that, GSP won the fight, but in some ways he may have lost. Now we'll see what happens with design and stuff like that. And I mean, I want to get Paul's comments here. The question really now is, what's next for GSP? What fight do you want to see? Even the GSP fans, like, what do you think this says about GSP? Where do you want him to go next? Do you want him to fight Anderson? Do you want him to fight Nick Diaz? Are you excited for his next fight? What about Jake Shields? If you look at the fight, after the fight, whose face looked worse? GSP's looked a lot worse. But I want to get Paul in here. Paul, you know, so much to say, and I mean, where do you even start?
Let me start here. First of all, there's already people on some of the other UFC 129 videos we made, and you know they're waiting to hear from us and eating crow and all this type of stuff. Let me just say this first. Give GSP all the credit in the world.
Absolutely.
He won the fight.
Yep.
He controlled the fight. I actually had the fight 50 to 45. I know two of the judges had it 48 to 47. I didn't think it was that close. As you mentioned, GSP is very good at getting the kind of fight that he wants. If you're a Jake Shields or Josh Koscheck and you want to take GSP down, he's not going to let you do that. And it seems a lot easier. You know Jake wanted to shoot. You know Jake wanted to get it to the ground. He made a couple attempts, and he just couldn't do it. And GSP's quickness, takedown defense, and leg strength. I mean, just look at his legs.
Yeah.
And it makes it a lot harder than you would think it would be. And I think that played out tonight. And so we were both watching the fight like, Jake, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
What's the strategy here? But it's just, it's much tougher because GSP makes it tougher. And you got to give him credit for that.
And I do give him credit for that, and I don't dispute that. And GSP, again, is a great champion. And I've said it before. If I were GSP, I'd probably fight the same way. And it's not GSP's problem. It's his opponent's problem. And GSP went in there and did what he needed to do. I mean, again, I stand by absolutely everything. There's no eating crow. I stand by everything I said. I think the GSP is not nearly as mentally tough as he is physically tough. I think that got, in my personal opinion, that got shown tonight. I think Jake Shields was a lot better than people were thinking. I don't think GSP is some unbelievable, nobody can touch him or beat him. GSP won the fight, but he did get beat up tonight, at least in the face, okay? And I think that Jake's stand-up was a lot better, and I don't think GSP has some super powerful shots that just blow people up because he hasn't finished any fights. He couldn't finish this fight, even though he was blasting Shields with lead right over lead right. I mean, just imagine this. Imagine if that was Anderson Silva in there. Imagine if that was Dan Henderson there. Imagine if that was Paul Daly in there blasting Shields the way that GSP did. I mean, look, give GSP his props. He wins, but don't try to twist it and make it into something that it's not. And the other thing is Jake Shields did not fight. Not only did Jake Shields not fight my fight and my game plan. And from what I would think, Caesar's game plan, Jake didn't fight his game plan. And again, you can have any game plan, but when you get in there, it's just you against GSP, and maybe he just couldn't. So I wasn't in there. No one else was in there. Jake was in there. I'm not knocking Jake or anything like that, but I'm just saying at the same time, you're going to sit here and ask me to predict something or whatever. Look, if I have a Lamborghini, right, and we're in a race, and there's a water route, an air route, and a land route. I have a Lamborghini, and I say, hey, you know what? I'm going to put some pontoons on this Lamborghini, and I'm going to put it in the drink and try to race a big race boat over here. How well do you think it's going to work out? So I mean, if the game plan is completely changed. Totally, then I mean, okay, well, it's going to go a certain way. I mean, that's almost like asking an NFL lineman to, run a mile against a miler and see how that goes. But whatever, dude, it is what it is. Again, I stand by absolutely everything that I said, and I think if anything, it got proven out tonight. But what do you think? I want to hear from you. I know we're going to hear from everyone. And again, huge props to Canadian MMA fans. Huge props to the GSP fans. You guys packed the Rogers Center. It was a great event. It was awesome. GSP wins again. He's a great champion. But I think the real questions have set in now, in my personal opinion, about GSP. But again, he is a great champion. He's a great ambassador for sport, and he's good for business. Paul, I know you have something to say before we wrap up.
Let me just say this quickly. GSP in his post-fight interview gave Jake a lot of credit for striking. I think that was clear, and it was shown. What you mentioned as well. Look, for people thinking about a potential Anderson versus GSP fight, I think that the success that Jake had striking, think about that being Anderson Silva. In my opinion, the only opportunity GSP would have in that fight would be being able to get consistent takedowns on Anderson. Because if he didn't, from a distance, looking at what Jake did tonight, you think about that being Anderson with harder, precise strikes, what that could end up being.
Yeah, and that's it. But look, I mean, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. I know a lot of people are going to talk about this. What do you think about this? What does this mean for GSP? But we stand by everything that we said, for sure. And in my personal opinion, it was nothing but proven tonight. What do you think this means for GSP? What do you think this means for Shield? Who do you want to see GSP face at welterweight? Or do you want him to move up to middleweight and face someone like Anderson Silva or someone else like that? I mean, where does this mix?
I just want to say one more thing. I want to say one thing. You mentioned this, and other people are already talking about this, so let me just throw my hat in with them. To watching tonight's fight, I am interested in a Nick Diaz versus GSP fight. Right.
I have said that before. I'm a little concerned with Nick getting muscled around by GSP, but man, Nick is so crafty and he puts on a pace. As we know, he's going to be there to fight, and I think we saw tonight. I mean, GSP was there to be hit. If Jake Shields, and all the props to Jake, and I said that Jake's striking was better than people thought. I was just sort of covert in the way I was saying it, and I wasn't going to come out and say it exactly. If Jake can do that to GSP, what do you think Nick Diaz can do to GSP? Okay, Nick Diaz is going to put on a pace that's going to be really tough for GSP to deal with, and Nick Diaz has great jiu-jitsu and great ground stuff, and he's very slick and elusive, whatever. But I don't know. I mean, that's I'd have to see that fight. That's a whole different thing or whatever like that. I mean, GSP might just straight out power him, but I think that Nick Diaz, yeah, it does get a lot more interesting. Agreed. But what do you guys think? We need to hear from the fans right now because there's a lot of people talking about this. Give me the comments below. Subscribe above. I'm John D. Villarreal. That is Paul. We're Conservative Media, and we'll see you next time.